A huge thank you to Square Enix for sponsoring the video and providing a copy of the game. Paranormasight is one of the best games of 2023 that no one's talking about. And today, let's discuss 5 tips to help you solve the 7 mysteries of Honjo. Now, if you're like me and you never played a visual novel-based game, you missed a wave of titles like the legendary Doki Doki Literature Club and Danganronpa series, let me walk you through some of the basics of what you'll be looking for in this game. So unlike most other game genres that focus on things like execution, positioning, fast-paced QTEs, the most important thing by far that you'll need to rely on throughout your playthrough is your cunning and critical thinking skills. As the story begins to unfold, your goal as an investigator into this phenomena is to remember key bits of information and to utilize your discernment and recognize the subtle details in your interactions with the characters and your environments. And that will lead us into our first tip, interacting with the characters and environments. First things first, when you arrive at any new location, I always recommend doing a full 360 of your surroundings. This will help you pick out more information regarding everything that's going on and provide critical pieces of info to help make key decisions. You might see some person loitering off in the distance. In some cases, somebody might be standing directly behind you. That's kind of a creepy, if you're playing this game at night, somebody's like literally standing right behind you. Likewise, make sure that you're often utilizing the think command, and at least most scenarios, this will ensure that your line of questioning that you use for the other characters will produce the best results. And this use in tandem with checking your notes very frequently to make sure that you're as educated as possible will definitely help yield some really good results. So anytime you get some new information updated or new character updated, try and read through it because it'll give us a little bit of tidbits that'll be very useful in some situations. And then rolling on to number 2 and number 3, let's talk about the curse stones, using them and them being used on you. So as your playthrough progresses, each of the main characters in each scenario will be handed a curse stone to utilize throughout their investigation phase. Now this is kind of critical for a few reasons. First off, with the power of the stone, you'll be able to kill people when the stone's conditions are met. However, this is not always the optimal play, as killing someone may result in a game over, or it may potentially remove an interaction that you need in order to progress the story. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is don't be trigger happy. And conversely, throughout each scenario, you'll encounter different characters with curse stones of their own that can be utilized against you at will. First and foremost, each of the curse stones has very specific conditions that need to be satisfied before they can be triggered, i.e. things like sound, fire, the environment. Make sure you're checking the notes for each curse stone that you encounter and ensuring that you haven't inadvertently satisfied the conditions for them to be triggered. This is a very quick way to get a game over screen. Now, while this game is definitely pretty forgiving and the narrator will flat out give you direct advice when you die, some of these can still be a little kind of like tricky mind teaser-ish if you don't have your thinking hat on. And that leads us to our next one, number 4, thinking outside the box. Now, with this game being my first visual novel, I was actually taken aback just a bit with some of the fourth wall breaking that occurred throughout my playthrough. The level of self-awareness that this game has actually ended up being one of my favorite aspects throughout my entire playthrough. If you find yourself stuck in any specific scenarios, make sure you are considering all the possible available options. This includes things like the game's actual settings, where your character is currently positioned on the map, and even following the most minute detail that a character may have casually dropped in conversation. Now, I've left most of these examples deliberately vague, as robbing another player of the ability to figure out some of these mind teasers would surely dampen the overall experience. So in closing, as a rule of thumb, I would say don't discount any possibility. The game is really good at toying with your mental, so just don't take anything off the table. Leave everything open to imagination. And to take us home, coming in at number 5, I want to talk about some of the branching paths for each scenario. Now, several times throughout this game, you'll find that you arrived at a bit of a roadblock in your ability to advance the story without a real clear indication as to where to go next. This was my primary headache in my first playthrough. However, this typically means that you need to go back to a previous scenario and choose different options in the dialogue tree, or ensure you've investigated every area as thoroughly as possible. The game generously gives you several options as to where you'd like to restart any chapter, so feel free to jump around and see if there's any previous conversations where you think you might have left something on the table, or you didn't really mine deep enough, you didn't actually go through the entire dialogue tree. Every time you complete a dialogue tree, you will see a check mark next to it, so that means that you've pretty much exhausted all the options there. But make sure that you are critically thinking. I think that's the best takeaway I can give for anybody that's trying to get through this game. And for sure, this is likely the main area in this game that will truly test your patience, as replaying certain combos repeatedly can be a little bit on the tedious side. Just ensure, as I mentioned before, you're exploring all your options and you'll get it in time. Feel free to drop any additional tips that you've discovered throughout your playthrough, and make sure you like and subscribe for future upcoming content. LC signing out. Peace.